Hey, what's up guys? Figured I would take a quick minute, walk y'all through the shop, show you what the latest and greatest is currently on all the big projects we got working. So we got a little 69 Camaro in here that we're doing some finish out for the guy. We're fitting a Detroit Speed steel dash to some TMI dash pad and stuff like that. Made a factory console work with its modified trans tunnel, putting in the one-piece headliner, a lot of little interior bits, mounting components, stuff like that, tidying up some wiring, coals falling over the shear. I think that's funny. But just kind of doing some little finish out for this guy, but it's going to be a cool project. So the Buick project's been making good progress. A lot of the body work has been kind of getting started, trying to kind of line up all the fiberglass body panels. We have some really neat ideas for the front splitter and front bumper that we're about to start building all of those. We could probably put in a little picture of that, Cole, only this time you can actually put the picture in and kind of show you that. One of the things that I'm kind of excited about in this car that I can show you is we've got these super cool billet hood hinges, and we've built these because on a lot of the race cars there's not a lot of room under the hood for factory hinges and they get really bulky, and sometimes you want to just be able to remove your hood really easily. So we designed these and made them so that you can weld them to a plate. They don't take up a lot of space. They're adjustable both ways, and you just pull a quick pin and the whole hood comes off. So you get the best of both worlds, where you have a hood that's hinged and a hood that comes off with just quick pins. And also when it's hinged, it'll flip all the way up onto the windshield if you want it to. So it makes it really easy to work on. Takes a lot of the worry out of how do you get a hinged hood on a car that otherwise probably couldn't have one. So I really dig that. We're talking about the 935. Everybody really loves that project. It's the 935 on a 996 turbo all-wheel drive setup. It's sitting a little high right now, but a lot of really good sheet metal work's been going on. It had a lot of rusty panels. Also had a lot of interesting things we need to do to incorporate the pan from the 996 into the body from the G body, because they're a little bit different. They're definitely different scales. The 996 is a lot wider, so we're kind of having to narrow it down, and to make it all look like it kind of came that way from the factory is our goal. So a lot of that's been going on. One of the really cool developments in that project is that we've discovered that there's really just not enough room in the front to fit a factory strut and strut tower for the all-wheel drive suspension. So we're gonna get a little wild. Stay tuned. There might be a little bit of Corvette DNA in this Porsche. So I'm excited. All right, so definitely one of my favorite projects is my buddy Mark's 65 Mustang twin turbo fastback. Been working on that car for a long time, developing it for a long time. Finally got the engine back from the builder, getting it all put together. One of the things that we wanted to do was upgrade the intercooler for it. The old intercooler sat behind the radiator and was in the way of the new dry sump mandrel that sticks out the front of the crank pulley. So we decided while we're doing it, we're doing two big Garrett intercooler cores on this. And we're gonna have where one turbo blows into one side, the other turbo blows into the other. Inside of the center here is gonna be a lot of air deflectors that are gonna kind of help direct the air into the tube that's gonna go up into the throttle body. So with the two liquid cores, we're gonna see a lot better airflow. Before the car had one. We're also gonna double the cooling capacity of the car, and another added benefit of mounting this low in the chassis is we're not gonna have it in the way of the airflow coming out of the back side of the radiator. So we should get a little bit of a kicker and improved cooling performance on the engine itself. We're also going to put a ton of sensors in this guy, just kind of like what we do with the Camaro, where we're going to put water temp sensors on the inlet and outlet of the intercooler. And we're also going to have T-maps, which gives us temperature and pressure on the inlets and the outlet. So we'll be able to really monitor how well the intercooler is performing and if the water flow is appropriate to get us the maximum performance out of the intercooler. So super excited about this project as well. I know I keep saying that I'm super excited about the projects, but it's hard not to when we have so many really cool projects going on. But the 68 Charger Pro Street car is going to be really neat. Currently we are in the process of designing the front suspension. We're trying to design a front suspension that's going to perform really well on the street and give them as good a handling as possible with a car that looks Pro Street, and also packages really well with the ultra low ride height we're going for and the huge amount of weight that's going to be in this car. So currently we've got a mock-up of the large by huge CNR radiator that's going in this guy, because we want to try and keep a 1500 horse blown alcohol Hemi cool in traffic, which if any of you have tried to do that in the past, you know it's a bit of a challenge. So we're actually building the entire front of the car around a gigantic radiator, which is going to really allow him to cruise this car in traffic as long as he wants to. So the suspension is currently being designed. We'll probably be starting on the build of the suspension here very soon. And as soon as we get into that, we'll make sure to show you guys some videos of what the processes we are taking to design it and build it and go from CAD to reality and a rolling car. So once we get the front suspension on it, this thing's going to be actually pretty close to being on all four wheels and being a roller. For the most part, we've got the car from the firewall back pretty well there. We've got the cage all where it's going to go, the chassis all where it's going to go. One of the really cool things that we did on this one is we created this center tunnel structure. On a lot of cars that we're trying to get a really stiff chassis out of, this center tunnel structure adds a ton of torsional rigidity to the car, and it adds a lot of beam height to the chassis itself. It makes the car just so much stronger. And also, it's in a car like this, it's going to give us kind of a cool look, because the plan for this is to leave some of that exposed and painted in a contrasting color with some cool sheet metal work on the top of it. I'm pretty excited about designing all of that, because ever since I was a kid I've always loved Lancos. The exposed levers and linkages are just some of the coolest things ever. So it's really neat that we're going to be highlighting that stuff so much, and in a way it's kind of neat that we moved the engine up quite as high as we did for the ride height, in that those Lanco rods got really high, and it kind of gives me that vibe of the almost cartoonish monster cars from the old Ed Roth days. So I think that it's going to be a really cool vibe having everything just so big and in your face, and the car just being so low. When the car's all done, it's only going to have about 4.5 inches between the pinch weld and the ground. So we're going to have a 68 Charger that's maybe this tall. It's going to be killer. So on the second gen wide body Camaro, we've got the flares just wrapping up, working on the diffuser. We've got a little bit of a running design change. It's going to alter the sides of the diffuser a little bit. And this car is almost running. It should be actually a running, driving car, I would say in the next couple of weeks. So once we have it rolling around under its own power, we'll be sure to get you guys a video. From there, we're going to be working on the air dam, the splitter, some custom tricks in the front, maybe some cool stuff with the intake that kind of protrudes through the hood, and then this thing's going to be about ready for paint. So one of our personal projects here is the splitter. You guys might recognize this goofy looking guy. We made a trade where he's helping me fix up my splitter mold for the Camaro, and we're going to kind of take some designs that Paul at Veris has worked up for Ferris that incorporates some of the stuff that was for my original splitter for the Camaro, and we're gonna come up with a splitter for his Corvette. It's like Veris said he's not the best guy with body filler, but that's close to the worst. If it's not the worst, it's close to the worst.
Definitely not the best guy with Bondo, so I am.
We might need you to try a little harder, Ferris.
Yeah, fixing your mold, dude.
You got this isn't quite up to snuff, man.
Yeah, I think overall
I think we'll get turbulence. Yeah, we'll have it dialed in and gel coated and looking the way it's supposed to.
Get out of my face, Cole.
I'm getting ready to do some drawings and concepts on this little 308. This is for a friend of mine, Rob. He's a big guy, well, he's a big guy. He's bigger than me, but he's about my height. And when I was driving it the other day, I said, Rob, one of the most important things we're going to have to do is figure out how we're going to be able to drive this damn thing and not be miserable. So one of the first things we're going to do is start pulling out the seats in the interior and figuring out how to get it where somebody my height can actually sit in the car and drive it comfortably. Then after that, it's going to be a lot of really cool custom body mods. Couple little things on the engine, not too much. We know 308s aren't rocket ships, and we're kind of going to let it be what it is. But we do kind of have a neat car that is a rocket ship right over here, and it's also Italian. We've got a underground racing Lambo in here that's getting just a little bit of fab work and some custom seats. We're working on that currently because there's a little bit of electronics we got to sort out to make sure that we can keep the car happy with aftermarket seats. So currently working through that. Nate's going to be working on the electronics on that Monday, try and get that all sorted out so that we can make sure it's not going to be bonging at him all the time when he's got his cool new carbon fiber seats. So, a little bit of contrast, but the Hummer project has made a lot of good progress. We finally were able to get the blower pulley and some of the other stuff. We're just waiting on some drive shafts, and then that guy should be running. It's got a brand new 6-liter with a 4L80 and a supercharger on it. So that thing should be a lot more fun than it was stock. And currently working on a bunch of design concepts for that, for an all-new interior and also a whole new body redo with custom front bumper, all new color-coded panels, and might be going in like a satin gunmetal gray, a bunch of cool stuff. So that project will be kind of ongoing now that we've got the mechanical side done. It'll go more towards the cosmetics. Alright, so we got the 70 Chevelle project, been doing some gapping, fitting some panels. It's about ready to prep it and get it painted, but we decided to do a couple more fab tricks on it while we're in process. Gonna work on some tow hooks and things like that. Another project that I'm pretty excited about that's gonna be really neat. This is the 72 911 that we're building for a friend of mine. And to start with, we got it just as a shell. Had a little bit of stuff on it, but we wanted to really strip it down to nothing and see what was going on because it had a ton of undercoating and stuff on it. So looking at it, there's going to be some fab work and sheet metal replacement that has to be done to kind of get it up to standard so that everything is nice and solid and rust free. Angeline's been scraping undercoating and seam sealer off this thing for like a week because there's really no way to do that other than just sitting there scraping it. Some people ask why we don't acid dip them. We've kind of had some issues with acid dipping in the past, kind of getting stuck between the panels and kind of leaking out. So we like to try and do the blasting and the scraping and try and get them down to bare metal that way. The bodies, we typically will sand them. We'll never blast those because we're trying to avoid warpage. But unfortunately on this car, somebody didn't heed those theories and the roof got warped. So this one's probably going to be getting a new roof skin. And the quarter panels were flared, but they weren't flared ideally. So we're going to do a bunch of measuring and stuff, but then this stuff will need to get quite a bit of planishing and touch-ups on the welding and metal finishing to get this to the standard we want this car to be at. So when this thing's done, it's going to be a really cool car. It's going to be running a air-cooled 4-liter, and it's going to be running a Motec system on it, with likely a Motec PDM, all modern electronics, but everything is going to look 70s era vintage, which I really like that. I think it's going to be a really cool vibe. I know a lot of you guys out there are probably going to feel a lot better knowing that this one's getting a 4-liter air-cooled motor instead of an LS, but then some of you might be like, you're ruining it because you're not putting an LS in it. So we'll let you guys argue about that. Made it back into the office. You guys saw all of the projects we have going on in the shop. Well, not all of them, but some highlights. And we're back at the Camaro doing some kind of cool stuff to it. We're hoping to have it back on the dyno here in late January. We've got some really cool ideas going with this. I've been talking to my buddy Tim at Motorsports Electronics, and Him and I have been jamming on some really crazy ideas, also with our friend Scott Best. And we're going to be building some different cylinder heads for the car. We're going to be building some headers for it that have a little bit longer primaries. We're going to be incorporating some anti-lag that's a little bit different than what we've had in the past, and possibly some other really interesting tricks that maybe we'll share with you. If you're lucky, maybe we'll keep them top secret. I don't know yet, but we'll have to make that decision later. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. We appreciate it. Please leave us comments on what you like to see, what you don't like to see, or what you want to see more of. And please don't forget to like and subscribe.